I do too. Now, yeah, let's get back to Sun Tzu and figure out a few more principles before we leave him behind. There are a number of things that I think are worth taking seriously here. One of them comes out of this passage. He says, therefore the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. In short, the best general is the one who does not fight.
Oh.
So the best leader doesn't actually, in the end, fight. And he goes on to say, actually, the clever leader is one that people don't notice. It's reminiscent of the phrase from the Tao Te Ching, where Lao Tzu is saying, some leaders people praise, and some leaders aren't as good, people despise them. But the best leaders, the people barely know that they're there. The people say, we did these things ourselves. And so he says the best generals are ones where they not only win, but win with ease. The victories bring that person neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage, because it looked easy. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. And so a skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible. So the idea is, in a way, look, the best leader is not the one that everybody looks up to as the best leader. The best leader is the one who isn't getting noticed, because it looks like they're doing something easy. Yeah.
So all these things in theory, but I mean, war is complete chaos and mistakes all over the place. So is this realistic, or is he saying this is what we should aspire to, but we know that it's not really going to happen, or does he really think there's leaders that this is? I mean, I don't know if there's a leader that hasn't made a mistake, or hasn't.
Right. No, exactly. You're never in a position where you make no mistakes at all. On the other hand, I think part of what he's getting at here is that if you've gone to war, something's already gone wrong. The best leader is the one who achieves the objective without that kind of fight, without the risk. That's why he makes defeat impossible. It's because he isn't fighting. And so he manages to achieve the objective without the conflict. So you might say, all right, there's going to be this bloody price war between us and our competitors. The best leader is the one who manages to avoid that conflict altogether. It's not a question of managing the damage, because as soon as you get into the fight, that means you're going to suffer, the other side is going to suffer. The best leader is the one who manages to avoid fighting. But of course, he's no pacifist. He's not saying, so therefore never fight. He's saying, fight when you have to. And in fact, one of my favorite passages, he goes through the various types of ground and what you should do. And there's only one of them where he recommends fighting. And that's usually translated as either desperate ground or death ground. On death ground, fight. Okay? But since those are the only circumstances, you might say the corollary here is fight only when you have to.
Is that also like the best leader doesn't fight? Does that also mean finding other ways to win without fighting?
Exactly right. Exactly right. Find other ways to win. It's not that you don't fight and you give up and you don't achieve your objective. You get it without actually having to enter the conflict.
Like,
So, well,
So,
yeah.
does it also mean that you're so good that no one wants to fight you? Like, be the kind of leader
Ooh.
that you're like not, no one's gonna win if they fight you, so don't even try.
Yes, exactly right. One of the ways in which you do this is develop strength, right? So it's not that they think of you as so courageous and so on. It's rather, you're so strong, nobody's going to pick on you. So think about, think about this in the context of, let's say, a middle school. Okay? Fight only if you have to. And develop strength so that nobody will pick on you. And so it's actually, in that context, very good advice, you know?
So you could be charming, and that might be one way
Yeah.
to divert, a conflict.
Oh,
You
exactly.
might be super smart, whatever.
That's right. In a political context, this might mean be a really good diplomat.
that's what I was
Right.
saying.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, you might say, look, if your country in the end has to go to war, that's a sign that other things have already failed, right? The best leaders are the ones who don't actually have to go to war. They get what they want without that. They're able to do it through diplomacy, through charm, through strength so that no one will pick on them, by having other means available. Now, in a context of business, you might say, well, wait a minute, we're in a competitive marketplace. What do you mean, fight only if you have to? There are times, though, when you can manage to avoid going head-to-head with the competition. Other times when you have to do it. So what would be an instance of avoiding going head-to-head with the competition?
Not entering a market where the competition is very strong at.
Good, the competition is very strong, and you might say, yeah, let's don't enter that market, let's do something else. So, for instance, let's say you're an auto company, and right now you're very good at sports cars, let's say, but somebody is proposing that you develop an SUV. What would Sun Tzu advise?
What's the example again? I didn't hear.
Okay, you're a sports car, I'm thinking of Porsche. Okay, you're a sports car company, and somebody says, but lots of people in our market are having families and buying these SUVs. We need a Porsche SUV, which they did develop, by the way.
Yeah, the Cayenne.
Yeah, the Cayenne. So, what would Sun Tzu think about that?
You would say to not enter the market.
He would say either don't enter the market, or do so in such a distinct,
Yeah.
but do it in such a distinctive way, assuming that the others are already established and you're not, so you can't be first to the field. That is, by the way, one of his other rules. Try to be first to the field, because there's a big advantage to that. Again, I'm not sure that's always true in every kind of setting, but in a lot of settings that's right. In any case, yeah, if you can't be first, then make an SUV that's so distinctive, that's so sporty or whatever, that you're not playing on exactly the same playing field. If you, yeah, go ahead.
Well, that one, well, at least in my experiences in the fitness industry, people are like the newest trend so much that being established actually hurts you because they're always just wanting to try something new, and it actually doesn't work to your favor to you're actually like stale or the old trend, So,
Ooh,
yeah.
right.
But in
Yeah.
the same context, but then you could be being first, and that kind of like you're first a long time ago, but what if you're first now in fitness?
Well, being first now means like waiting for the market to be developed, and so I'm just like, I don't have enough customers basically, because it's like being first is just you're ahead of the actual density basically. So,
Ooh, okay, yeah, good. Be first to the field. In a war context, that makes sense. You can get dug in before the enemy approaches. You can seize the high ground. You can, use the terrain to your advantage. In business, it seems to me you're right. There's a sort of curve here, and you might think, yeah, what you want is to be entering the market right there. But it's possible to be too early.
There's that saying like trailblazers get arrows in the back.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. I mean, yeah, if you're thinking, okay, the army's here, now do I want to be in the front line attacking? No, not really, right? So, yes, if you're entering the market back here, that's a disadvantage. But if you're out here, let's say you've developed that first tablet and the market isn't really ready and you don't have the capitalization to really start giving them away massively to change it, then you're in real trouble. And so I agree with you. It's really, this is to some extent a question of timing. And sometimes that's a matter of being first, but often it's a matter of letting somebody else go out there, prepare people, get destroyed, and then you come in.
And really know your market. You really have to know your market.
Exactly right. You really have to know the market because you have to know this. Now, that is a matter of knowing partly, well, I think he was saying knowing the ground, but also knowing the changing environment, sort of having a firm grasp of this. In fact, the fundamental principle is really just know the 5 factors. That's sort of the mega principle, you might say, behind this. And exactly right. That's going to mean know that shape, understand what the right time would be. And in fact, that's really, in the end, the greatest virtue of the general. Know when to fight. And know, sort of,
Know when to fold them, I was thinking.
know when to hold them, when to fold them. Yeah, exactly
Know when
right.
to walk away and know when to run.
That's right. So yeah, we could sing a song now. Okay, so yes. In fact, here are the 5 essentials for victory. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. And so exactly right. That's really this. Know when. Because timing is often everything.
And discipline comes into this, because you can't just,
You bet. It's not just knowledge, it's discipline. It is so hard to get yourself to wait, for example.
right, and not just,
That's right. Or you get there a little late and you think, oh, but I've already invested all of this in there. And so you end up entering when you really can't win as a result. So it's discipline both to, to do it at the right time and to refrain from doing it at the wrong time. And you're right, that requires a lot of self-knowledge and discipline, as well as an understanding of the timing. Now, well, yes, you've got to know how to handle both superior and inferior forces. And you've got to take the enemy unprepared. Well, there are a lot of things there that are useful. But now, ponder and deliberate before you make a move. So we can just say, think it through. And actually, I'm going to jump ahead to one of the other books and talk. I don't want to go through the examples they gave in any detail. They're sort of intricate in some cases. But a lot of them revolve around the following thing. Think through the end game. In fact, a lot of those game theoretic examples have to do with backwards reasoning. You might think, oh, wait, yeah, I'll do this. But then you realize, hold on a second. Like that example. It's a wonderful example where the payoff keeps doubling. There are a bunch of envelopes, and each one has either $5 or $10 or $20 or $40 or $80 or $160. And then the question is, aha, I give you, two of you, let's say, envelopes, and now I say, do you want to switch? You think, oh, let's see, mine has $40. And I do tell you this, the amounts are adjacent in that series. So if you've got 40, that means the other person has either 20 or 80. But then you think 20 or 80, ooh, it's 50-50, my expected payoff is 50 instead of 40, so yes, I'll switch. The other person, let's say, has the 20, and they think, well, the other person has either 10 or 40. Okay, so payoff 50-50 chance is 25, so they switch. So everybody thinks it's advantageous to switch. But that seems ridiculous, right? It's like it can't be to both of your advantage to switch. And so what's going on here? Well, partly you've got to think through the end game. The person who has 160 and who knows the rules is not going to switch, right? Now, what does that mean if you have 80 in yours? You realize if the other person's willing to switch, then I shouldn't, I shouldn't switch, and so on. So, in short, you can do this reasoning backward until you realize, unless you've got 5, never switch, because the other person won't do it. So, think it through, and in particular, think through the end game. Now, sometimes there isn't exactly an end game. As with a university, what's the end game? Yes, Texans are now all smart philosophers. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't an end game for something like that, but sometimes there is. How are you going to conclude it? How do you get out of this situation, let's say? And sometimes you realize, wait, there isn't a good end game for me. And so why do you get in? Great example of this, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. What was the end game there? Japan was angry at the United States because of the oil embargo. They had been making a move to get supplies and to expand territory in Southeast Asia. And in China, the United States was upset about that and so imposed a financial embargo first and then an oil embargo. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. And what was the end game? For that matter, what was actually the medium game? By the end of 1941, Japan had expanded through a huge area, basically the western half of the Pacific, all the way down to Australia, and going up into Burma, even, through Thailand and so on. So it had a giant area, well, millions of square miles of ocean. But now, what was the plan for keeping that? And once you get the United States in a war, what's your plan for defeating the United States? There was no plan. The plan was, we knock out enough of the Navy and Air Force in the Pacific, in Pearl Harbor, to make the United States lift the embargo. I think that was really the thought. But there was no interest. I mean, did it ever cross Roosevelt's mind that instead of going to war, he should just lift the embargo and say, oh, I'm sorry we really offended you. Our mistake. No. And so once the United States declared war, what was the Japanese plan? There really was no plan. And so it took great luck, actually, for the United States to win at Midway, for example. But suppose the United States hadn't won at Midway. Still, what was the Japanese plan for getting us out of the war and eventually winning? Or, even defending that vast area against counterattack? There just was no plan. And in fact, now we actually have the records from the key meetings where the decision was made. And there just was no plan. The naval minister asked several times, if we don't attack, will the United States Navy eventually come and attack us? He asks this question 3 times. There are long pauses in between. Finally, someone says, no one knows. And he says, well, if they were to, let's say, not attack us now, but attack us 3 years from now, would we be in a stronger position or a weaker position? And the response is, no one knows. But, we might go to war 3 years from now. We might go to war now. I don't know. I think it'd be easier to go to war now. That was the level of the discussion. In short, there was no endgame. There was no thinking it through. There wasn't really even a game for a year later. You tend to think that the opposing leaders have this elaborate strategy and that everything they're doing is part of a plan. And sometimes you glimpse into history and you realize, oh, no, there was no plan.
What do you think about like Putin? Do you think he has a plan as far as annexing Crimea, obviously involving himself in Syria? Do you think he has an end game?
That's a good question. Does Putin have an end game? I don't know. At first I thought he did. I thought the end game was actually to reabsorb the various countries that had been part of the Soviet Union, and so to take over the Baltic states, to take over the Ukraine. He already has Belarus in his pocket, so he doesn't have to use military force there. And then to sweep south and get a warm water port. So I can see a certain geographic sense that all of this makes that goes all the way back to the Tsars and their eventual military plans. But then he's gotten bogged down in the Ukraine in a way that makes me think, well, maybe this isn't what he's doing. I mean, the Ukraine shouldn't be that hard to take if you really want to do it. And by now it should be pretty clear the Europeans and the United States aren't actually going to do anything if you do. And so that's a good question. I don't know. I thought I did understand how he had thought it through, but now I'm less sure because I don't understand what's stopping him. It may just be the collapse in oil prices. Russia relies a lot on oil revenues, and it may be that without that he has no money. So he has a plan, but it was a question of a changing environment that he didn't anticipate. So it may be those people involved in fracking who are actually defeating him. I don't know.
What if the end game is to regain face?
Yeah, well, okay, sometimes the end game is that simple. It's really like, yes, we feel that we've been insulted, so we want to gain face, and we want to sort of regain some level of respect. The thing is, yeah, okay, you make this move, and you think that gains you some respect, but then how does the other person respond? Now, if you've thought it through and you think, and they can't respond because of this, that, and the other thing, then it makes sense. But it's as if the Japanese didn't think about the American response. They thought, now they'll take us seriously. Well, we did. But not at all in a way they anticipated, and not in a way that they had any plan for countering. There wasn't supposed to be enough of a navy left to win at Midway, but we did. So yeah, in that respect, I think Hitler invading Russia was actually a similar kind of thing. He had planned to attack in April, but then there were heavy rains, and he didn't end up attacking until June 22nd. He should never have attacked that late. But he was convinced that the Russian army was so weak that he would easily defeat them. He thought, look, I took France in 6 weeks, Russia's weaker than France, I'm going to be in St. Petersburg in 3 weeks. And that was a huge miscalculation. He did not at all understand the nature of his opposition. And so that was a case where he didn't think he had to think it through. He thought, look, this will be an easy victory. And so that's a bit different from the Japanese, I think, in the sense that he did sort of have a war plan. He just grossly underestimated the strength of his adversary. Now, anything else? Well, there is one thing that's really intriguing to me. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Don't press a desperate foe too hard. So, leave your opponent an out. Give them a place to escape to. Don't trap the army so that they have nothing to do but fight you to the death. Basically, never put somebody else in that kind of desperate situation. Because if they have nothing to lose, then they can attack you full force. Exactly. Go kamikaze on you. Don't do that. You want, let's say there's somebody in the organization, you really want to get rid of them, always leave them out. never trap them so there's nothing else they can do, because they may end up doing something hugely destructive. So always give people an escape route. Now,